Hey guys, what's going on? Mouse here. So, kind of tired right now. I've been doing this for like more than 12 hours now. I actually did a lot of individual tests on the skills as well as theory crafting damage output. And later, I'm going to explain to you guys one of the biggest problems with the design of Cha Hae-in, specifically with regards to her A3 and why I think this is actually not a problem. Where the early test failed, including mine. I'm going to show you a full test that I totally scrapped because we've made wrong assumptions on the A3 advancement and how it actually works. And I think it is actually fixable and would require specific builds to be able to take advantage of that A3. And with that, let's begin. And so you guys probably already know the skill rotations. Basically, you just cast skill 2, then skill 1, 5 core attacks, and then skill 1. One of the key things here is that Cha Hae-in has Heavenly Sword, and depending on the number of stacks, you will get 175% of their defense for every blade summoned, and this counts as basic skill. This has been confirmed that it is actually a basic skill because if you use it with Infamy, it will actually add Infamy stacks. And then we have a Will of the Sword buff here. Depending on the number of stacks you have, you're gonna get crit rate, crit damage, and increased defense. So for A1, we have the Sandstorm here, which changes to Quick Attack Sandstorm, increasing the damage by 60%. We've been mentioning this before, that things like these are basic skill damage increase. And so I had to test all of these one by one. It turned out here, 70,600, we got an increase of exactly 20%, adding Hanseme's 20% basic skill damage. If it was a 60% basic skill, then we will be getting much less increase, but that is not the case. This seems like similar to Kanae's skill, wherein it's not considered a skill type increased damage multiplier. And then we also have here at A3, you will get Heavenly Strike changes to Heavy Attack, Heavenly Strike. So I also tested that, and this one I'm not 100% sure about because when I added Hanseme's 20% skill damage increase, I only got 18%. There might be some other complications here, like the swords maybe, so I'm not totally sure about that, but I would say I am leaning more towards assuming that this is similar to Quick Attack Sword Storm and it actually increased 60% damage. For now, that is what I'm assuming. Again, disclaimer, I'm not totally sure about these because when I tested Gogunhi's, for example, this one wherein it changed to Heavy Attack, this one was additive to the skill increase. For Cha Hae-in, it doesn't seem like the case. So for A5, we see another thing like that. Increase the damage of Sword Destiny. This one, I have confirmed that this is actually additive to the skill type. 12.5% damage increase on the first skill when I upgraded to A5. And then I added Hanseme's 20% skill damage buff. For the ultimate, I added one hit kill set just to check whether it will be additive to that. We only got 16% actual damage increase, which should have been a 25% solid increased damage if this is not a skill type multiplier increase. So some of you guys might get confused. Just to make things simple, similar multipliers will have diminishing returns as you've seen here. And then we did not see that, or I am assuming that it's going to be the case for the Sword Storm Quick Attack, increased damage by 60%, and the Heavenly Strike 60%. But A3, I have to revisit this, but probably not because I already tested the artifacts in actual combat. So one of the issues being raised right now is that there is an AI problem that causes Cha Hae-in to lose DPS with her A3 advancement because her A3 advancement actually consumes the stacks here in exchange of increasing the Heavy Attack, Heavenly Strike damage by 60%. I'm not sure if that is true. I am leaning more towards a different thing, which I'm going to explain to you later, because when I tested the AI here in the Hunter's mode, I'm not sure if it's going to be different, but let's just take a look at this rotation to core, core, then core, first skill. I'm not sure if there is really a problem with the AI because when I ran that in the Hunter's mode, it was following the proper rotation. So to have a better understanding on what is happening to the damage, where it's coming from. I did a breakdown here skill by skill based on the assumptions we've made in the previous test on A3, skill 2, and A5. For example, here we have Quick Attack Sandstorm. We assume that it is a full solid damage multiplier at A1, so we adjusted the base skill damage. So Heavenly Strike 1731%, and with the skill percent that we got from A5, Core Attack with Maelin Fisher buff, Heavenly Sword treated as basic skill, and so on and so forth, increasing up until the end of one single rotation. So before we proceed though, just a disclaimer, this is not meant to show you the exact thing that is happening, because I am not sure myself. I'm only using this just to get an idea and to be able to identify where to start the tests. So for this example, of course, we have to add some specs. So I added damage increase 25% from stats. Let's just say we're using Blessing Set and the Maelin weapon buff. I'm not sure if it's a damage increase or a skill multiplier increase, but I would assume it's just a damage increase. So we added 16%, and now we have here total of 61%. After adding and multiplying the damage multipliers, here's what I got. The highest damage output was 8-piece Infamy on Teamfight. Next will be 4-piece Infamy plus 4-piece Obsidian everywhere. Third one is 2 Curse, 2 Infamy plus 4 Obsidian, which is almost the same as 4-piece Infamy plus 4-piece Obsidian. Then in the Hunter's mode, the 8-piece Infamy has low damage, which is also very close to 4-piece Curse plus 4-piece Obsidian. This is an AFK testing. You will see that the damage of Cha Hae-in is actually quite inconsistent. 3.5, 3.9, we have 3.1 even, 3.8, 3.2 even, we have 4B, 3.7. There's so much RNG, the variance of damage is too much. So what I did instead is to lessen the RNG and do a different testing method. I'm going to explain to you first what is happening here to Cha Hae-in's A3. So it will consume the Wheel of the Sword when the duration ends. So what I think is happening is that, for example, you cast skill 2, skill 1 afterwards. Once you do that, you will gain a stack of Wheel of the Sword. And therefore, you will gain of crit rate, crit damage, defense. But as soon as you reach the maximum stacks, after doing lots of core attack damage, and by the way, as you do your core attack damage, your damage is not going to be consistent as well, because your crit rate is still in the process of increasing up to the maximum amount. So what I think is happening based on this is that as soon as you reach the maximum stacks, you're going to burst it, and then you will lose the crit rate again. And if you lose the crit rate, your skill 2, which is a high damage output, by the way, that's going to be a solid 1.7k plus 60%. And your skill 1 and your core attacks will not have the maximum amount of crit rate. And the reason why it's very relevant when it comes to testing is that the crit rate is a major source of RNG, especially when you are fighting the guild boss. You're not going to have enough crit rate. And I believe that because of that and the attack patterns RNG, the damage becomes very inconsistent with each test. So what I did instead is to lessen that RNG by increasing the crit rate and removing the attack patterns in POD. In this setup, I compared 4-piece Obsidian plus 4-piece Infamy versus 8-piece Infamy set. So I added Greed Set, I added Igris. Stats are quite similar: 39k defense, crit rate 6.7k, 200% crit damage, defense penetration damage increase, and same goes for the Obsidian setup. So I did several runs in POD wherein I instantly break both hands so that we can reduce the chance of Cha Hae-in hitting the hands with ultimate, with high damage skills, and so that we can remove the RNG and the attack patterns, as well as the travel time whenever they go from the right to the left or left to the right. So this way we will get a more consistent result. Majority of the hits will hit the head. There's no downtime. And by doing that, we will know which set will actually perform better. And what I found out, I only did 3 runs each due to time constraint, but I think this is enough. So this one is the Infamy set test. I got 5.4 billion, almost 5.5 on Cha Hae-in, 5.8 billion. Second run, third run is also 5.4 billion. And when I tested 4-piece Obsidian plus 4-piece Infamy, I got a lower average score: 5.1, 4.8, and 4.9. This is still very early, but I think this is a good enough starting point. I believe that for Hunter mode and every other game content, 4-piece Infamy plus 4-piece Obsidian is gonna be the best artifact set. But when it comes to team fight mode, I think Infamy set is gonna be superior, especially if you're having MP problems in the guild boss specifically. I think Infamy set is gonna be better. However, when it comes to the build of the full water lineup, this is another thing that we need to test, because this A3, although it's probably good, heavy nuke with the Swords Resolve with that 60% increased solid damage, is causing inconsistency due to the lack of crit rate. So just imagine, when you're fighting like a guild boss at level 90, for example, or level 80, I'm not sure about the real level of the guild boss yet. Haven't tested that, but let's just say you can only get 30% from Cha Hae-in's crit rate stat, and it will be of course lower even if you over crit against higher level monsters. It will be lower than that. Let's just say 30%, just for the sake of argument. And we have here 21% at A4. So if this A3 was tested against the guild boss without the A4, then there is already a problem with that, because she's obviously not going to have enough crit rate. And even if she adds all the buffs here from Balin feature, which is 16% crit rate, and it's not always going to be up, and there is going to be a downtime to that. And if you're not using at least 4-piece grid on Sorin, then tests on level 90 monster would actually become inconsistent. And it would require insane amount of attempts to actually see and to actually ascertain that A3 is actually nerfing Cha Hae-in. But personally, in my opinion, I think this is just the same case as Sakari, same case as Suyun, wherein we have to solve that and we have to make build adjustments. I'm gonna post some gameplay videos soon to show that Cha Hae-in is actually very, very strong. A lot of people have sent me their screenshots already as well. But anyway, this is pretty much solvable in my opinion, by adding more crit rate and changing the itemization of Sorin against higher level monsters, and adding at least probably one external crit rate debuffer like Cha Hae-in or maybe Libora to solve that issue. As I have explained earlier, once she loses this buff, the first half of the rotation will not have enough crit rate. And also do take note that even if she loses the crit rate during those initial steps of the rotation as well as the defense, she will get more defense from her weapon as she keeps on attacking. So when she arrives at the point wherein she's ready to use that A3 60% Heavenly Strike, she would also have more defense than the initial rotation, more crit rate, high crit damage for that burst damage. And this defense right here, although this might look very high, but as the fight goes on, the value of that 10% defense is actually gonna be way, way, way lower, because Cha Hae-in's weapon, like 6% stacking up to 60 times. And that is why earlier tests failed, including my test. So I scrapped all of them and approached it differently under the assumption that Cha Hae-in is becoming more inconsistent with A3, but that does not necessarily mean that it makes her weaker. I am leaning more towards that issue. AI problems is also a possibility, of course, but I think it is more on that crit rate variance and crit rate RNG. And so that being said, that will probably open a possibility for Sorin to actually use grid set instead of just using full desire set, just so we can lessen the RNG of Cha. So yeah, I'm gonna do some more optimizations and testing on Sorin to see whether my hypothesis is true. And there is also a possibility that we might also need to use 4-piece one-hit kill and 4-piece peridot so that we can keep that Malin Fisher ultimate up. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video, want to stay up to date with more tests and meta and gameplay videos. And don't forget to support me as well in the SLA Content Creator Program. Thanks so much. See you on the next one.